Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ben Trading Cards. And today we are going to ask the CEO of Genesis Battle of Champions. His name is Assad Quraishi, right? Quraishi. I
Qureshi. Yep.
did I say it right? Yeah. So we have some questions here that I gathered from the online and some for my Patreons. Then we
Mhm.
can ask the CEO himself about some of the probably there's some confidential things here. So if if I cut the video, that will be confidential, guys. All right. So the first thing I ask is, do you have like a tournament for your game, like
Ah,
OP?
yeah. So we actually have a lot of plans for organized play. I know it's one of the most important things when it comes to collectible card games because it's beyond just having the cards. You want to play with the cards. You want to compete with the cards. You want to show you're the best. So
Yes.
having organized play is definitely important. So just before COVID hit in 2019, we had our first championship,
Mm-hmm.
and we were planning to do one in 2020. We had everything booked. We were ready, and leading up to the championship, we were going to host circuit tournaments. So every 2 months, we would have a tournament hosted at one of the our partner retail stores, and then that would lead towards the championship. Then COVID hit. We changed our plans completely. But what COVID did give us the time to do is figure out what are we going to do for organized play. So we brought
Mm-hmm.
in a new team member, Alex Miller, and for people who have watched our YouTube videos, you've probably seen him in some of our live streams. He is he's been playing other card games competitively for a while. He's been running his own hobby shop for a long time too. He knows the value of organized play, so he's been putting that together. And hopefully this summer we'll be rolling out organized play. But we're also doing a deep dive tomorrow in our own live stream Tuesday night to talk about what are our plans for organized play and what are we going to be doing for with Genesis.
Oh,
So yes,
okay. That's good that we're looking forward to that.
yeah.
Um, so do you have the tournament, and do you have like world or maybe continental or national competition, something like that? Is it in the LGS, the minor league? Yeah, do you have some kind of tiers to that?
Since this year we are, because we're a Canadian-based company,
Yeah.
we're focusing on how is COVID affecting Canada. That's one of our biggest priority. So we're going to be rolling out organized play primarily for the local stores so that they have prize packs and you can see a leaderboard. But for
Mm-hmm.
things like regional tournaments or a national tournament, we haven't planned those out yet because we don't know when Canada is going to open up. And if we're going to be rolling that out, we want to give some priority to Canada
Yeah.
because we're Canadian, right?
Yes.
Uh, so we want to give some priority to that. But I know that we've already booked our reserved a space for our championship this year, but I don't want to announce dates or anything just in case of plans change. But once we get word from the government that it's okay to have social gatherings, that we can start hosting these tournaments again, then we're
Mm-hmm.
going to announce the date of our championship for this year, and we'll invite everyone who's eligible and able to travel to come and compete.
Okay.
So at the very least, we'll have a championship, and we'll be opening the doors for local LGS level
Mm-hmm.
competitive play.
All right. I've experienced with Magic the Gathering that they have like a standard rotation. So that was, I
Mm.
think, the card is should be a 2-year-old card that you can include it in your competition, right? At the tournament. Um, do you have a standard rotation for your cards?
Yes, but it's not in effect right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have rotation, and I know it's something that a lot of players are not a huge fan of.
Yeah.
But there's a design concept behind this, and it really comes down from the fact that um, I know that designing things that are supposed to last for a very long time. I come from a computer science background. I've worked
Mm-hmm.
with code that is
Yep.
10 years or 15 years old, and there's all these old legacy bugs that you can't deal with. There's all these rules that don't make sense. I think having an opportunity to cycle things out so
Mm-hmm.
that all those legacy issues can be removed is very beneficial for the designers. It gives us an opportunity to design comfortably without having to always worry what we've done in the past or what someone else has done in the past. But we will be cycling cards, but it's not for another couple of years. And when it happens, we'll be easing players into that cycling process.
Okay. So speaking of like cycling cards, do you have like something like a reserve list, banned cards, overpowered cards, as you've experienced since you started the game?
So we do have one card that's banned, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not for the reason you think it is. It's not because it's a super powerful card.
Yep.
It was just it was printed and it was very off scale from the rest of the cards. So it created a bad sense of what the game was about. So it got replaced going from alpha to beta, and it's the
Mm-hmm.
only major difference in the card pool going from alpha to beta. And then moving off of beta, we haven't banned any cards. There have been a lot of cards that have been requested by the community for us to ban, but the analytics behind it haven't backed up that idea. So we want to we want to reserve the right to ban cards in as scarce opportunities as possible. We don't want to just ban cards for the sake of banning cards.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants that, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And as you can see that there are some TCGs that uh, died out already, so they are not existing in the market. And how do you prevent that from happening to your game?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Um, so one, we work really, really hard to do our best to keep the game in everyone's attention, to grow with amazing content creators like yourself, to grow with amazing community members and
Mm-hmm.
getting their feedback and involvement. Um, Also, a big part of our process is uh, and I don't want to speak for those companies or those games that have failed in the past, but my big philosophy is I want to make a really good company first, plan and build a good foundation, work with the right institutions on how do I be a good CEO, how do I be a good mentor, and then the product we're producing, the game, it's valuable to our company, but our company comes first. So keeping our company alive, that is what keeps the game alive. And we borrow from a lot of design or startup philosophies from companies like Apple, companies, small tech companies like Think Research in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
We've used their philosophies on how they grew, how they fought in very competitive spaces, and we've been applying that in our own space.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, and we are Canadian. You're a Canadian company, and you've been distributing all your products here. And how far did you go for other countries? Like, have you been to, is your product reached the Asian market or in the European market? How far did you go for that products?
So we were distributing in Canada straight up until COVID hit. Shortly after COVID hit, we made a bit of a pivot and we started reaching out to some American states that
Mm-hmm.
weren't shut down yet.
Yep.
And we started selling into those states. So places like um, Ohio and Tucson, um, and it just kind of grew out that way. We eventually found a distributor. That distributor has helped us get the game to a lot of stores throughout the US, throughout Canada, and we are now going to be reaching on distributing in Europe. I think in the next few weeks to a few months, you're going to start seeing stores carrying the game in Europe. So it would be a really, really cool change of pace there.
Yeah. I guess I went to a certain your website and I've seen the map, which you can see some like how you call it? You can see the locations of
Yeah,
the distributors. Yeah, so we can see it updated, right? Always, which is updated, and some other people can see it
yeah.
where because I have some viewers that are in Poland, viewers in Australia. Maybe
Mm.
they will see they want to know where they can buy the product if they are interested. So yeah.
I know for Australia, I know there is some interest. There's some stores that are interested in carrying the game. But right
Mm-hmm.
now, they just need to make sure that the demand
Yeah.
matches the interest,
Okay.
like matches the cost of shipping,
Yeah.
because getting the product over there is a huge challenge, right?
Yeah.
And we're even realizing that now with Europe, getting the product into Europe, getting it distributed, adhering to all the legal side of things, and trying to figure out, okay, what are the criteria for the government about selling a game in this country? What are some of the safety procedures? There's so much decision
Correct.
making that goes into selling into a new country.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if there's demand, if there's interest over there, we'll do whatever it takes to get the product over there, and start growing that community. It's just it does take a little bit of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. A lot of challenges there.
Yeah.
And speaking of challenges, that you have competitors like Pokemon, Magic, Flesh and Blood, some many
Yes.
TCGs, and have you how do you overcome that? Like because, for example, Flesh and Blood, it's envious, it's envious that they are the very young uh,
Mhm.
company, and they're really so popular in US and Canada and almost all over the world. So how do
Yeah.
you overcome that challenges?
Uh, so the biggest challenge is more of an emotional challenge of seeing your competitors succeed, thrive, do so much
Mm-hmm.
amazing stuff, and be like, how come I can't be as good as them? And it's the same issue I'm sure everyone faces at some point in your life, where you start comparing yourself to other people,
Yeah.
your same age or whatever, and you start saying, I should be doing more with my life, or I should be pushing things. And then it's really important then to take a step back and say, the only real competitor you have is yourself. Your biggest goal is to make sure that you're doing better today than you did yesterday. And
Yeah.
we have a great community, and they're so loyal. And some of them do play Flesh and Blood. That's great. Some of
Yeah.
them play Magic. That's awesome. Whatever you play, I'm up for that, because at the end of the day, as long as you're playing card games, I'm happy. I'm happy. What we're trying to deliver is just a different game for
Yes.
people who, you play Magic and you're like, this is great. I love the strategy, but I wish this was a little bit more tactical, like chess. And then that's where we come in. We come in with this whole other approach. Or you're playing Flesh and Blood, and you're like, I love the fact that I'm this hero and I get to come into combat and I'm brawling with my opponent. But the seeing, for some people, the cinematicness of it is a little bit missing, because like when I think of gladiator fights, like if you've seen the movie Gladiator with
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Maximus, and he comes into the arena and it's this epic, and there's tigers,
Yeah.
and he's fighting this giant barbarian guy, and he
Uh-huh.
wins. And you're like, this is awesome. You want to have that same energy.
Correct.
Um, Flesh and Blood delivers it in one way. We delivered it in a different way, right? So even though we are in the same space, I just want the community. I want our players to play whatever makes them happy. If tonight you want to play Magic, tomorrow
Yeah.
you play Flesh and Blood, the day after you play Genesis, that's awesome. Um, and then for us, our goal is each of our sets better than the previous set.
Mm-hmm.
So Beta was better than Alpha. Welcome to JLR was better than Beta. Raise was better than Welcome to JLR. Second
Oh.
edition is going to be even more amazing. Origins, there's so much coming for that.
Mm-hmm.
And we just make sure that our community is happy, more happy today than they were yesterday. And as long as the only one we're really competing against is ourselves, and our community is staying happy, then we'll thrive. We'll stay alive, and we'll succeed in our own ways.
Oh yeah. That's a good. When you sent me your promo cards, and I've seen some of the gameplays on YouTube, and I was first of all, I do attracted by artwork. So every time I've seen like cards, something like that, I always check the artwork. And when I've seen your artwork, oh man, I said, yeah, this is this is a good game. And then after that, I go to the gameplay, and I've
Mhm.
seen the gameplay that is just so unique from other
Mm.
card games. So I said, oh, okay, this is different because you have to move the cards from a
Yeah.
grids, right?
Mm.
So yeah, and can you give us some background? What influenced you to do this game? Like, what is the
Uh,
greatest influence for you?
Oh, there's so many influences. So one of the biggest influences, okay, so when you talk about the actual flavor and the story of the game, it came from there's this one unit in Warhammer named Lilith, and she was part of the Dark Elder, and she was this gladiator, pit fighter,
Mm-hmm.
and she was crazy because she came in as a small little unit, and she could go toe to toe with this giant behemoth of a unit, like something that big,
Mm-hmm.
and still take it down, no problems. And just this idea of these epic warriors fighting and telling their story was something really cool. Then there was a set in Magic the Gathering, Odyssey block, and there was this one character, Chainer,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a pit fighter who rose through the ranks and did all this craziness. But his battle sequences were just so unique and so powerful. Then I started seeing other shows that had the same concept, and I loved it. So when it came to flavor, those were some of my big influences. And when it came to mechanics, I mean, you can see influences from Magic, you can see influences from Diablo or Warhammer.
Yeah.
There's also a card game a long time ago called Anachronism, which
Mm-hmm.
was a TCG created by the History Channel,
Yep.
and they were one of the first TCGs I saw that actually had that grid where you could move around. And then there's
Okay.
also a board game called Summoner Wars or Mage Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and there's so many things that kind of came together because I've been working on this game I worked on the game for 15 years
Wow.
before
Okay.
producing it. So it wasn't just one idea. It was, I watched one movie and I was like, oh, I love this. Let's add this. And
Yeah.
it's like cooking dinner, right? You got a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of spices, all these different spices come together, and that's how you get this awesome product.
Okay. So because when I've seen your game, it's like a chess game
Mm,
with the TCG and the
yeah.
movement of the heroes, creatures, and I
Hmm.
can see that it's the property of the rook in the chess that it can go straight and
Yeah,
vertical, horizontal to the grid.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a good concept that you have there. Yeah, and some TCGs have. Let's talk about rarity. Okay, because
Mm,
I'm
okay.
going here to the collectors and
Yeah.
investors, and that is they are they are the what I mean as they will fuel up your game. They will, of
Hmm.
course, money right coming in.
Yeah.
So if for investors and collectors, they are going for the rarity of the card, right?
Hmm.
And are you planning to have like for Magic the Gathering they have the etched foil,
Mm,
and for Flesh and Blood they have we call cold foils. Okay,
yes.
so you've seen that, right? So
Yeah.
do you consider having those kind of cards for you?
Uh, so right now, our big philosophy is trying to
Mm-hmm.
separate collectability
Okay.
from accessibility, right? So on one end, I do understand. Uh, so for me personally, one of the things that deterred me away from playing Magic was when they introduced Mythic cards, when
Yep.
they introduced that fourth rarity, because all of a sudden, getting the cards you really wanted to play with was challenging for people who are on a budget. So when we started designing second edition, we decided, okay, we want to make accessibility to the game really easy.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that makes our game very unique is that there's no limit on the number of copies of the card in your deck.
Yeah.
So you can run 30 copies of the same card. So
Okay.
how do we get people 30 copies of a given card?
Mm-hmm.
So we readjusted our booster packs to give you um, 8 commons, 4 uncommons, and 2 rares, and then a champion card in every pack. And that's how it's going to be in second edition. And this makes it that you get more bulk, you get more cards that you need. So accessibility is there for making the deck you want to make. But for collectability,
Mm-hmm.
we are introducing for the first time in second edition is going to be foil cards.
Wow.
And
That will
the
be
reason
exciting.
why we didn't introduce them earlier is it was purely our manufacturing cost. We could have introduced foils at the beginning, but then
Mm-hmm.
booster packs would have been $8 a pack,
Yeah.
and no one wants to pay $8 for a brand new TCG. So to keep the cost competitive, we decided to keep the foils out. Now, because there's a high enough demand, we were able to bring foils into the game. So we do have the collectability, but our big thing is that the foil cards are not different cards than what you see in the common, uncommon, or rare slots. They're the same cards, just in that foil version. So it's going back to
Okay.
like the old days of when Magic first introduced foils. Uh, and so I don't know if you remember that, but like back in seventh edition or Odyssey, when they first introduced foils and
Mm-hmm.
you'd get them, they're one in every like 15 packs or
Yeah,
something like
it's a
that.
bit rare. Yeah.
And it could be anything. It could be a land, it could be a common, uncommon, or rare. But whatever it was still cool.
Yeah.
And that's the part we want players to get excited about. So those really, really good rares in foil, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
those are gonna be worth something. Those are gonna be worth a pretty penny. But if you're someone who doesn't care about that rare, but you're a big fan of a particular common, well,
Yeah.
let's get you that foil common now, right?
Yeah, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Flesh and Blood foil sorry cold foils
Mm-hmm.
that they said that they will no longer once it's printed for the first edition they will no longer print it
Mm-hmm.
on the next printing. So that makes the card collectible. But
Yeah.
they can also print it on another set, but it's in a rainbow foil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's how they do it. That's why I was asking if you are
Yeah.
considering that kind of approach to the collectibility. Because for me, I'm
Yeah.
really I'm a collector. You can see here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I have lots of those, and I seldom buy if ever I have the rainbow foils already, I won't buy rainbow foils anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm looking at is the rarity of the card because
Mm-hmm.
based on you've been playing with Magic the Gathering and until now all those uh, no reprints of the cards are sought after by collectors,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like Black Lotus, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good to know that that you're considering
Yeah.
for the foils.
we
Um,
are we are looking at how do we do collectability, but at the same time, I don't want to just steal someone else's concept, right? I don't want to just do what Flesh and Blood's doing. They're doing it so well, and they do have such a good idea of what the community wants. So why should we just go and copy them, right?
yeah.
It doesn't make sense. We got to figure out what our community wants, what our community's needs are, and then do something based on that. So I think over the years we might change our philosophy, might change our approach, but if we do, it'll be from feedback from our community. It'll be that
Mm-hmm.
feedback from our Discord server, from our town halls, our one-on-one chats with the players to figure out what works best for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so going back to the rarity, what are the types of rarity like common, uncommon, and you said there's rare. Do you have like mythic or fabled, something like that?
So our rarity slots with unique cards are starters, which are your champion cards, your character cards, and resource cards. So you got
Okay.
starter cards, commons, uncommons, and rares. Then we have one slot up, which is your epic rare, which is a full art version
Mm-hmm.
of a regular rare. So you take your regular rare and just extend the artwork,
Yeah.
remove a lot of the filler space, and that's your epic rare. So it's not a unique card; it's just a fancier version of the regular rares. And then we have foils, which are going to be any cards that are common, uncommon, or rare, just in
Mm-hmm.
foil format.
So that
Uh,
means the starter rarity is the lowest rarity in your
Yeah,
game?
we give those away for free, and
Okay.
we encourage stores to give them away for as low of a cost as possible. Most stores give them away for free.
Yeah,
Uh,
so that will
so
be like champions, right? The
yeah,
champions. So
yeah,
yeah, I have the deck here that I've seen the champions. And also I've seen artwork for champion.
yeah.
Like I have it here. This is Malik. Yeah. And there are two. I was confused because I have two Maliks, but they they have you can see that.
Yeah,
So two Maliks and two artwork. How
yeah.
does that work?
It's kind of like in Street Fighter when you and your like, have you played Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or any of those fighting
Yeah,
video games?
Tekken, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And if
Hmm.
both of you pick the exact same character, you want to have different suits so you know who is who.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what it is.
So
So if you
if
both
you're
come into combat and
so
you're
if
playing
your
the
opponent is Malik, so you have to change an artwork
same.
so to distinguish.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Now I know. Well, that's a good idea, you know. Yeah, yeah. So I got it.
Yeah.
And then, do you have lots of presence in the secondary market? I've seen few in eBay. Maybe you have some
Hmm.
secondary market that I don't know yet.
So yeah, the secondary market's a bit confusing. So directly as Haunted Castle Gaming, we cannot be involved in the secondary market, right?
Yep.
Because that causes a lot of conflict of interest and a lot of legal
Hmm.
issues.
Correct.
But as for our retail partners, yes, they're in the secondary market, but they're all really confused on how to evaluate things because of the fact there is no concept of a play set, right?
Hmm.
So there are certain commons that sell out a lot faster than an uncommon or rare in the store's binder because of the fact that it's, players need 10 copies of that card.
Yeah.
So if you got 10 players needing 10 copies, that's
True.
100 copies of that card that you need to get. So what do you do? Do you increase the price of that? Do you to meet demand, or do you
Hmm.
decrease it because it's still common? And so trying to navigate through that, there's definitely a lot of confusion. But I know that there are a couple of places that are trying to tackle that, and that's great. And we support them the best we can
Hmm.
without being directly involved in that.
Okay. But you're still monitoring that, right? Because Flesh and Blood is monitoring it.
Yeah,
They're
we have an eye on what it's like.
hmm
And our big thing is, again, balancing between collectability and accessibility. So, for example, recently I heard about an alpha card of Genesis, which is Chrono Walker. This
hmm
creature sold on the secondary market alpha version for $40.
Okay.
And I heard that the seller was saying, "Oh, if I got another copy, I would sell it for $80 or $100." And
All
that's
right.
because there are
Mm-hmm.
probably only 20 alpha chrono walkers in existence. So it's so scarce that the value of it's really high. But to get Chrono Walker to play with, you can find a cheaper version for like $5.
Okay.
But if you want
Yeah.
that collector version, that's
Yeah.
where you're paying the extra
Yeah.
money, right?
Collectors wants the first editions.
Yeah.
That's
So
what. Yeah.
again, it's that balance between accessibility and collectability.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this is also I have question regarding the boxes, the
Hmm.
number of prints. Because some other TCGs have like Flesh and Blood,
Yeah.
they show the number of prints, print
Hmm.
runs on each set. Are you planning to have like a collector center for that?
Um, so to be honest, this just you're the second person to ever ask me about that.
Mm-hmm.
And as a company, we haven't quite figured out what our policy is.
Yeah.
Some people are against, some people are for. I know we've gone on record several times saying how many alpha booster packs there were. So there were only like 250 or 300. It's on our website somewhere, but there are like only 250 booster packs, not booster boxes, just booster packs of alpha
Yeah.
that were ever printed. And then for beta, I know we printed a lot more, but again, the numbers were very low because we're a small company, right? We're not printing at the same scale as Magic, Pokemon,
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh, or even Flesh and Blood. We're not printing at that scale yet. So our numbers are pretty low. I know when we did get our game into the distributor's hands, they took all of our inventory and sold it in 2 weeks. So that
Okay.
and that was 3 years of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
3 years of inventory. They just sold it in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So there is very little printings of the first edition products. Um, so
So,
I
mm-hmm.
I don't know if we're quite ready to share those numbers, but if we do, I'll let you know.
Oh, that's good. So that means you said that there's a venue that you can see the packs, right? Number of packs there. Like you have a
uh,
website on that, or like a page on your
Yeah,
website.
I'm pretty sure on our Genesis website, we've announced how many alpha booster packs have gone into circulation.
Oh, okay, just an alpha, or how about the
Yeah, just
beta?
an alpha.
Okay, so the
Just
first
an alpha.
edition. Okay, that sounds good. And also, this is quite, I'm not sure if you want to answer this. How do you feel about the success of Flesh and Blood?
Oh, that's awesome. Um, so I think what Flesh and Blood did, and it's doing a lot of things that are really, really cool. But what they did for the first time in decades
Mm-hmm.
is show that this industry is not immutable. So before Flesh and Blood came out,
Hmm.
every store that I talked to about this industry, about the collectible card game space, they're like, um, any new entry into the space is just going to come and go, right? We had games like Dragon Ball Super, Y Schwartz, and what were some of the other ones? You had the Transformer card game. You had so many card games that came out in the past 10 years.
Yep.
But their presence was relatively small. And they may have gotten somewhat of a market somewhere, but then they just more or less died out, especially in Canada. But Flesh and Blood was like, no, if you have a good strategy on what you're doing for marketing, for sales, for your collectors, for your players,
Yeah.
and you have a good direction on what you're doing with organized play and getting people interested, involved, and supporting the fans. Actually, you did a video about this a few days ago, I want to say, where Flesh and Blood did a great job supporting one of their fans who made
Yeah.
the model, and they got a
Yep.
special card, the cold foil, and what they did, the Legend Story Studios, it does such a great job at showing that it's not about the game. The game is important. It's the
Mm-hmm.
business model that is very important. So
Yes.
Flesh and Blood could have died like all those other games. But what Legend Story Studios did was they focused on how do we grow marketing? How do we
Yep.
grow distribution? How do we go sales and retention? They looked at how do we build a business. And that's my point is that Genesis, I love Genesis. It's a great game. It is the best card game for me because it's how my brain works, obviously. But the thing that I'm really proud of is our business model. The
Mm-hmm.
first thing I did before printing out any cards or selling the game on the market or anything is what's my business plan? What's my marketing strategy? What is my growth cycle? And yes, we grew much slower than Legend Story Studios. Uh, they they exploded really fast. Actually, we
Yeah.
were on the market a year before they were. We started selling our game a year before they did. But the big difference is we're a startup. We have no investor capital. Everything came out of my money, and we had no connections. My understanding is the owner of Legend Story Studios. He worked in distribution. He worked for Wizards for a little while, or Hasbro at least. So he had a lot of connection, and he knew what he was doing getting into this. I was guessing a lot of times, so I made
Mm-hmm.
slow, calculated steps to grow. Because the last thing I wanted to do was expand really, really fast like Argent Saga,
Yeah.
and then have to scale back because you can't deal with that expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So our first year, we had 2 stores. At the end of our second year, we had 5 stores. At the end of our third year, we had 15 stores.
Wow.
And then at the end
Yeah.
of this year, we're going to be hitting 200 stores.
Very good.
Uh,
That's good.
so we're ramping up now, but that's because it's not just me anymore. I have an art team of 5 really dedicated artists, and
Mm-hmm.
then 5 external artists. We have a chief sales officer, which you met, Chris, um,
Yes.
and then we have a game design lead. We have our future lead, and we have our editor and writer. We have a full team that's working on it now. So that allows us to grow. But when it was just me doing 100% of the work,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I couldn't grow the same way they did. So
Yeah.
all in all, I think Legend Story Studios is inspirational. They are awesome, and if you are a Flesh and Blood player and you're happy with that, I am happy for you. All I recommend, all I like, all I ask is that all players. Actually, I don't know. Do you know the YouTuber Red Zone Rogue?
Yes.
He actually
Yes.
put out a video recently about like don't be enemies, be friends instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, that's my same philosophy. If anyone who's watching this, you play Flesh and Blood and you enjoy that, then for people who play Genesis, don't tell them that they're playing the wrong game, or if they're playing Magic or they're playing Yu-Gi-Oh, don't tell them that their game's bad and that your game's the best. and also be willing to open your mind and try the other
Yep.
games. I there's no way that oh, you have to remind me, who's the owner of Legend Story Studios?
James White.
James, yeah. So there's no way that Mr. White never played Magic or never played Pokemon, right? He had to at some
Yeah,
point.
he was
Uh,
disclosing
yeah,
that. He disclosed that he was the one of the champions last time. Yeah,
exactly.
and I have a
So,
videos talking about like don't bash other TCGs
mhm,
because it's I compared it to like a basketball game and a soccer
yeah,
game
exactly.
and tennis. They are all using balls, right?
Yeah,
But they are played differently.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
doesn't mean that you played in a basketball, you don't want to play soccer, right? Or
yeah,
football. So it's just
yeah.
like for your TCG is totally unique
Hmm.
with other TCGs as well because you
Hmm.
have the grids, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, we have
yeah,
to embrace everything, and it depends
exactly.
on your preference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree. Like, I think there was a time where the community was very divided, especially between Magic players and Yu-Gi-Oh players. If there was a store that was hosting both those, they used to snipe at each other a lot, and it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And if that other game is not for you, then just don't play the other game. But there's no
Correct.
reason to put someone down
Yeah.
for playing a different game.
Mm-hmm.
So and Legend Story Studios, everything they're doing with their organized play and with the release cycles, the product design, it's amazing, and I love it. It gives us ideas of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to copy them, but it inspires us to try things differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. Are you also focusing on LGS, not on Amazon?
So
Because other TCGs are going selling at
yeah,
Amazon,
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
like
so what
MTG.
happened again? COVID kind of changed everything. When we first started, we were selling directly to stores. Then we had a lot of people in different areas that were
Mm-hmm.
interested in the game, but there were no stores in their area carrying the product, like
Okay.
you know, Ottawa or Montreal and stuff like
Yep.
that. So we did sell on Amazon for a little while. Then COVID hit,
Okay.
and we decided the best way we can show love and support for our retail stores were to cancel all of our Amazon, take down our e-commerce,
That's
and
good.
then put on our website. If you are interested in buying the game, go to your local game store. And if your local game store does not sell the game, then tell us, and we will sell in demo copies to that store so they can learn the game. And we'll send you demo copies, and you can play with the store owner.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if you're interested, then we'll help you carry the game. But we will not sell directly to players anymore. And that's been our philosophy moving forward. And it's just, I would hate to see the day where local game stores don't exist anymore. Like, that should never be the future.
Correct.
So we are doing everything we can to work with local game stores to carry the game and make them as successful as possible.
Yes, because I think that TCG grows because of the community, right? Gathering
Hmm.
people, talking to someone personal,
Yeah,
in front, and then you play with them and making good friends.
yeah,
But buying on Amazon, I can't see any
yeah,
gathering there. It will
yeah,
just go to your home and then you play with someone that you're with a relative, right? TCG is
yeah,
actually for community.
yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the James had um, found out earlier that
Hmm.
you have to take care of LGS.
Yeah,
So it's good that you're going to that route.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that's what Magic was all about. It's Magic
Yes.
the Gathering, right? It was
Gathering. Yeah.
about gathering. And that's what
Correct.
Flesh and Blood is about. It's about playing the game in Flesh
Yes.
and Blood, right?
Correct.
It's meeting up with people. I
Mm-hmm.
100% agree. We got hit really hard during COVID because there's no way of playing Genesis um, in a COVID safe uh, function because of the
Yes.
board space, because cards are moving around.
Correct.
You can't put a barrier between people. You can't do the webcam. You had to be in the same space. So we did have a lot of struggles during COVID, but luckily at this point we've gotten through a lot of that. And once Canada starts opening up, we've sent the word out to all local game stores. Once you can open up, we'll send you demo copies for days to
Mm-hmm.
start getting people playing, get people in the door playing, buying product at your store and thriving again, right?
Yeah, that's what I was impressed with your company because you can see you've been from 2017, 9, and then 19, and then COVID hits, and
Yeah.
then now you're still surviving, and in spite of having those grids that you need to move to another opponent's place, and you
Hmm.
can't do that on camera, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have like simulator that I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you're familiar with the
Yep.
simulator.
Yep. We
Yeah,
use tabletop
unless you
simulator.
have that
Yeah.
and you can play, but just like Flesh and Blood now, they're doing Discords, which is it's also doable because you just
Mhm.
need your space, right? Not on the
Yes.
opponent's side. But on your game, you need to go to your opponent's side because you have to
Yeah.
move your cards. So I
Yeah.
was impressed because hey, wait a minute, this game survived in spite of
Yeah.
having no gatherings, right?
Not just survive, we grew.
Oh,
We
see,
grew
you
during
grew
COVID.
up. Oh my goodness, yeah. What I said that I have to support this game because
Yeah.
first of all, it's Canadian, and all the manufacturing are in Canada, and that's
Yes.
good for the
Um,
game and the
and
country, of course.
a big reason why we grew and survived was Patreon. And
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
sure you're kind of make a plug about your own Patreon page,
Yeah.
but Patreon members are just so great. We have what we did was we set up a Patreon page, and every single month you get an exclusive Patreon promo. So
Okay.
it's a full art version of a common or uncommon.
Hmm.
So it's the only way of getting these promos, or is through Patreon.
Nice.
And then when COVID hit, some of our Patreon members, originally it was a $10 tier and a
Hmm.
$20 tier. That was it. And that gave you 2 or 4 booster packs. It gave you your promos and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And one of our Patreon members is like, I want to support you more. How do I do more for you? So
Nice.
then we opened up larger Patreon tiers. And now we're bringing in a good amount of like baseline capital to pay for internet, to pay for our artists and
Hmm.
marketing, and that's all done through the Patreon members. So, uh, and then on top of that, it keeps us committed, right?
Hmm.
If our Patreon members every single month are sacrificing their income to keep
Yep.
us going, we have to give something back to them. We can't
Correct.
just stay at the same numbers. We
Hmm.
have to grow to show them that what they're doing is making a difference.
Yeah, just
So
like my Patreons, actually, I have Patreons that supported me without any benefits. I have two for when I was in about 20 subscribers. They joined my Patreon, and I was so happy that I said, okay, let me think of a way to give them back some,
yeah.
maybe give them some cards of my collection. I have lots of collections here, and then I created a tiers that I can every month I can give them cards of my
Mm.
collections and from different expansion sets of Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, whatever I have here.
Yeah.
Here, and yeah, it's good that you've survived and grow your business through patrons, and it's a good Patreons, and people are you think that when you open up something like that is no one will no one will support you, but
Yeah.
it's a yeah, it's a different case.
Yeah.
And two more questions.
All right.
I promise you I'm gonna let you go. One question is that are you going for digital?
So part of our philosophy, and this was just coming from me being an uncle, from me being around kids a lot of my life, and from my wife being a teacher. I noticed that kids who spend a lot of time playing video games,
Mm-hmm.
um, they can get irritable. It can be a challenge. And when they sit down and play board games with their parents, or play card games with their friends,
Mm-hmm.
they build deeper relationships. Those bonds last for a very long time. Not just saying that you can't do that with video games. It's just I see it a lot more with card games. So we don't want to make a digital platform that drives people to playing the digital and gets them addicted. Um, we want to create a digital platform where you can practice playing the game,
Okay.
and that's a goal for the future
Yeah.
because there is so much strategy and there's so much tactics involved
Yeah.
that you can't practice by yourself.
Correct.
It's not like Magic where you could just draw your opening hand, see what you're gonna do, and then shuffle and try again. You
Correct.
actually have to play through a couple of rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So we in the future we're gonna build something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But right now our big goal is we want people playing in the physical space for as long as possible, right?
Yeah.
As long as we can do it, we're going to be encouraging people to play with actual cards, with actual people, and enjoying friendships, enjoying communities,
Correct.
enjoying to get to know store owners. These are the things that are very important to us.
Okay. Awesome. Um, the last question that I have is the what is the longevity projection of Genesis? This is a question of my one of my patron. He said, where do you see yourself and your game in 5 years? He is John G. So this is his question.
All right. I think I've actually seen him make comments on some of our YouTube pages. I've seen that name around.
Okay.
Um, all right. So I can mention right now, when I started this project, I knew that if people were going to get into this, they wanted to make sure that the game is more than just one set, right? That there is a future for this game. So currently we have released Alpha, Beta, JLR, Rays, second edition. Second
Mm-hmm.
edition is coming out this quarter, so that should be happening soon. Um, we have in the works Origins, which is the next set. Then after
Okay.
that is Invasion, Collision, War. Then we have another. Then we're going to go to our next world where the storyline will change dramatically.
Nice.
That one has several sets planned out. I would say at least three sets planned out,
Mm-hmm.
and another three that are kind of rough. And then after that, we have so that's the next world. Then we have the next two worlds after that already planned, like sketched out, and then two more worlds after that, which are just in concept. So all in all, it's about 10 years of production time that
Wow.
we've already planned
More than
out.
five
Assuming
years.
that
Okay.
uh,
My my
so
my
this year,
question is 5 years now.
yeah.
You're talking about 10 years. That's
um,
good.
Yeah, so the hope is that this year we release two products, so second edition and Origins.
Nice.
Next year we'll release Invasion and Collision. And then from there, we want to start switching to releasing three sets a year.
Okay.
And then our ideal state is that in about 4 years from now, we'll be releasing four sets a year. And probably cap it at that because I think more than four sets is way, way too much. But I think a set every quarter. It depends on how the community is growing and how the game's growing too, right?
Yeah.
But
So
at least another 10 years of design space already sketched
nice. Exciting. I'm so excited to know more
out.
about that.
Yeah.
And please invite them for your online presence, like your websites, your Facebook account. Can you tell me more about those
Yeah.
sites? Yeah, so that they can
So
visit.
everything
Yep.
can be found with Genesis BOC. So it's genesisboc.com,
Mm-hmm.
facebook.com/genesisboc, youtube.com/C for channel /genesisboc. Everything's just there under Genesis BOC. So it should be pretty easy to find. But you should have the social media card, so you could throw up that information too.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, everything is there. And then if you ever want to get a hold of me, you can go to our website. On the Genesis website in the top right corner, you'll see something
Okay.
that says connect. And under there, there'll be our Facebook, our Discord, all of those links. If you join Discord and you look for me, I'm Sid Q. I have a little baboon symbol.
Mm-hmm.
You can message me, direct message me anytime.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, and we end up this interview. And also, by the way, I have a video a while ago. I released the how to learn the game of
Mm,
Genesis. So I just showed the this one here right here, the one that you gave me,
yes,
the ones at the back here. There's like a
yeah.
rules in it. So
Yep.
I've released already 12 o'clock in the noon.
Mm,
Yeah, they for the viewers right now, you can view that video, my previous
awesome.
videos, so that you can learn more about the basic movements
Mm,
of cards and how you can build your decks. Okay, so guys, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much, Assad, for
Welcome.
being here in my channel. Wow, guys, I can't believe it. The CEO of Genesis Battle of Champions is here. Go to their website, genesisbattleofchampions.com. And thank you very much, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.